Welcome to the third exclusive UK launch show celebrating the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud here at the Village Underground in Shoreditch. This is the video show.
It sure is, and we have a fantastic lineup for you. We'll be joined by some of the Adobe worldwide evangelists, as well as Hollywood video effects genius, Laurent-Paul Robert.
They'll also be joining me behind the scenes for some creative insights and inspiration up here in the tube. And of course, we'll take a look at what's new in the Adobe Creative Cloud video products so you can make the most of this massive release. You can join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag #CreateNow. But before all of that, let's take a look at how you can enter the 2014 Creative Cloud competition and all of those great prizes that you could win. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Before we get going, let's take a closer look as to what's coming up in the show. Jason Levine will be wowing us with some of the latest CC video product updates. Video luminary Laurent-Paul Robert will be sharing some of his video effects magic from his work on The Bourne Ultimatum, Harry Potter and The Boat That Rocks. There'll be tons of deep dive, hands-on product demonstrations, and Jason and Lauren will both be joining me in the tube to share some more useful insights and tips. Now let's get the video show started and head over to Lucy on the main stage.
It's time for us to take a look at what new treats the Adobe Creative Cloud video products have in store for us. Now, personally, I'm editing video on a weekly basis, so I'm very, very excited about our next speaker. So let's give a very big welcome to Adobe Evangelist, the one, the only, Jason Levine.
Hello, London! Oh, that was wonderful. Yes! This is our last show of a very long tour. Are you ready for 15 minutes of video excitement? Yeah. Excellent. Does someone have any espresso that I could have? 1 or 8. All right, my friends, how many of you have shot video that you've uploaded to, say, Vine? Vine videos. Don't be shy. How many of you have shot some video with your mobile device? Excellent. And how many of you have uploaded videos to things like Instagram? Well, welcome to the 2014 release of Creative Cloud for Video, because there are very exciting new features in here which really deal with simplifying, improving, and allowing you to be a better editor, but really, even if you're not an editor, get into these applications and do some very cool things very quickly, very efficiently, and really improve productivity. And while that sounds like sales and marketing, and if any of you saw our keynote in New York, I said it does indeed sound like sales and marketing, and it is! It's true. You dig? All right. I said it's the last one, so, you know. All right, so broadcast graphics. What you see here is we have some video, and over top of that video we have a lower third that was created in After Effects. And we heard from editors all over the world that this is a very common scenario where they will edit their video, and often the graphics packages are given to them. And if they need to make a simple modification, like changing the name of the person or the location where they are, etc., their role in this particular piece, they would go into After Effects, and then they're sort of staring at this interface with a very large, multi-layered composition. And in many cases, After Effects comps can be very complex, just like Photoshop files, right? You can have nested comps. You can have the text could be layers down inside of a nested comp, and editors are saying, I just don't feel comfortable editing these elements. What if I make a mistake? What if I disable the animation? What if I change it inappropriately? Can't you just put this inside of Premiere Pro? So a common theme of the 2014 release of Creative Cloud is that we're taking technologies from one application and placing them in another. And in this case, we have something called live text templates, where if I go ahead and select this here, what you're actually seeing, this is in fact the After Effects project, not just a rendered file. This is the AEP. This is the After Effects project dynamically linked directly into Premiere Pro. So for instance, if I wanted to say she's not actually from Tokyo, she's from Osaka, I can simply type it and it changes. If I said, no, her name is not Mari, it's Mary with a Y, boom, I can simply implement that and it changes. If I say that, well, her last name is not Yamamoto, maybe it's, well, we'll just leave it at Yamamoto for now. We can make these changes and you'll get the idea. Now, before we go on any further, how you set up these particular live text templates is simply by making a change to the composition settings in After Effects. Now, this is not something the editor would have to do. This is something that your VFX person would do, and it's a simple checkbox that you see here, this template checkbox. And as you can read, when it's checked, only template compositions in the project will be visible to Premiere Pro. Now, again, the idea here being that they can lock down layers. They can actually prevent you from editing things that don't need to be edited. And once they allow these particular layers to be editable, they'll show up directly inside of Premiere. You can make your changes. They apply instantly there. I've just turned it back into an eye there. Again, we can put this back to Tokyo. You never have to leave Premiere Pro. Let's go ahead and spell this correctly, like that, okay? There's your change, just like that. Taking technology from After Effects, putting inside of Premiere, really speeding up productivity. Can you feel it, London? They're feeling it all in the front row. I just turned 40 last Saturday. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Thank you. You said, give it all, my friend. So continuing on, masking and tracking. Now, why do we mask? Of course, anyone in design knows that we mask for a variety of reasons. Now, in video, we might mask or create a mask around a person for color correction purposes. Or, for instance, if we're doing interviews, we may mask out someone's face and blur it to conceal their identity. Or perhaps if we're filming something for a live broadcast or TV show or even a commercial television show, if they don't have license to show a particular logo, they might mask or blur it out or sometimes just put a piece of tape over it. But again, masking is very common. Now, while you were able to mask in Premiere Pro in the past, it wasn't really elegant. And if you needed to move that mask around, it was a very manual, key-framed process. So we wanted to remove that pain of doing all of that. Now, in the October 2013 release of Creative Cloud for After Effects, we introduced something called the Rigid Mask Tracker. And rather than reinvent a masking and tracking engine, we simply took that technology from After Effects, and it now lives directly inside of Premiere Pro. So if I go ahead and select, this is our shot of the wild leaves that you saw in some of Michael and Rufus's demos. Let me come over to Effects, and let's go ahead and add our fast color corrector. And now what you'll see is that on the fast color corrector, but more importantly, on every effect inside of Premiere Pro CC 2014, you now have the ability, right on canvas within the effect, to create an ellipse mask or a 4-point polygon mask. So let's go ahead and choose this ellipse mask, and I'm going to drag this out. like this. Now, the camera happens to be panning a bit left to right here. We're not going to worry about that. I simply just want to use this in a color correction kind of way, just to brighten up, maybe readjust the levels here, and draw more focus to the band. Okay? So let's come down to our settings of the fast color corrector. Let's go ahead and brighten this up just a little bit. And then we'll increase the saturation like this. All right? And as you might expect, of course, if I click away from that, you're going to have this nice ellipse-looking hole there, which we don't want. So you might say, well, surely you could feather those edges. And of course, we allow mask feathering. So let's go ahead and feather that to around 200%. And now, if we go ahead and play this back, you can see that we have our little color-corrected section. Now, if I go ahead and wind this back, I can turn it off. I can turn it on. You can actually see what this is doing in real time. And you'll notice that even though this is 4K red footage, R3D, playing on my laptop off of an external drive natively without transcoding, playback never stops. Okay, I almost blew my throat out right there. I was gonna do an Ian Gillan, and I don't do that. All right. All right. Now that's fine. That's easy. That's simple. But what about when you actually have something or someone who is moving? And this is one of my favorite shots. These guys in Ninjasonic are so cool. Their music's awesome. They're from New York. And I love this shot because, so here we have this hat. It's representing a brand called Rad. And we didn't have license to show this. So we need to mask and track it. But this guy, he's all over the place. And what I love is look at the dude on the left. He's like totally still. But he's and the other guy's just, yeah, whatever. So now we're going to use a blur. So let's go up to Effects. We have my fast blur here. You can drag or double-click that, however you choose. And for this one, I think I'm going to use the 4-point polygon mask. So let's go ahead and drag this over to our gentleman's hat. It is kind of funny. Thank you, sir. And we'll come over here, and let me just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so I can see what I'm doing, because as I mentioned, I did turn 40, and it's kind of hard to see now. So let's go ahead and make this adjustment like this. Now, many of you may be thinking, well, you could do this in Premiere Pro before. True! But when it came time to actually animating the mask, how did you do it? How you say? Frame by frame. Not fun. Not good. Not terribly accurate, and very time-consuming. So once again, we took the rigid mask tracker from After Effects, placed it inside of Premiere Pro, along with all of its various options, and now, right in Premiere, right on the clip, right on canvas, I can simply track the motion as it happens, just like that. Don't hold back, London! Make me feel it! That was fantastic. I'm not like this all the time. Okay. Now, oh, did my timer stopped? Okay, well, I only have 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure, so we'll just back that up. All right, so for my last number, I want to talk to you once again about some really amazing things that we've done for color grading. And again, trying to eliminate some of the pain of rendering. And this has been a process which we started several versions ago, right? Via dynamic link. This is what you just saw with live text templates. And even before I get there, hold on. Let me just rewind myself for a second. After you make the changes to the mask on your clip, you have the ability to replace this with an After Effects composition, because as Adobe users, you want complete control. So I can send this over to After Effects, and now you can see from the Premiere Pro timeline, we have the mask, as you saw it in Premiere, we have the fast blur, as you saw it in Premiere, and now you have all the capabilities of After Effects to make changes to that. Okay. But back to color grading. This was a process that was very render intensive, right? So you can see we have the timeline here, and if we wanted to grade this, right? And color grading, for those of you who have not done grading or not totally familiar with it, how many of you use Lightroom? Okay, so Lightroom, we do color correction for stills. Grading is color grading 25 stills per second, or in film, 24 frames per second, okay? Grading, color correction, same thing. One is over time, one is on a single frame. You'd have to render this out. You'd have to take this entire movie that you see here, which is a mixture of 4K, 5K, 6K footage. And I want to emphasize that Premiere Pro, SpeedGrade, we are resolution independent. So you can shoot in these Ultra HD, extremely large sizes, take that footage, drop it into the timeline, and just go. That's it. That's the beauty of this CC video system. But it always involved rendering for color grading, but not anymore. So taking a tip from Dynamic Link, we now are introducing Direct Link to SpeedGrade. So right from the Premiere Pro timeline, I can choose to direct link to Adobe SpeedGrade. Go ahead and send it over there. Grab some, that's somebody else's water. Grab a water. It will launch SpeedGrade. And what you're now actually seeing, this is the Premiere Pro timeline playing inside of SpeedGrade. Transitions that you have playing inside of SpeedGrade. Any color correction, adjustment layers, even the actual colors of the particular labels of the tracks themselves, of the video clips themselves. This is the Premiere Pro timeline in SpeedGrade. So now all you have to do is do your color correction. Now, there's lots of options here. I don't have enough time to show all of them to you. I want to point out a couple of very important things that are part of this release that, again, whether you're shooting 4K, 5K, 6K, or you're shooting with a DSLR, or your mobile device, or some other version of digital camera, is that we have lots of looks, lots of presets. And again, for those of you familiar with Lightroom, we have all those lovely presets. Do we like presets? Yeah, we like presets! Yeah! That's all right, thank you. That's enough. What's happening to me? 40. We like presets because presets allow us to get started, right? They inspire us to learn, this is how we get this kind of look, this kind of feel, this kind of contrast. So it's a good starting point. So we've added dozens of new looks presets in SpeedGrade to help you get started. We've also added new camera patches, and I see a couple of my good friends in the audience here who know a thing or two about shooting on multiple cameras, including DSLRs, Red cameras, Arri cameras, Blackmagic Cinema cameras, GoPro cameras. When you deal with mixed cameras, you have a problem with making them all look kind of the same, right? Because they all have different color profiles. So with these camera patches, and you can kind of see some of the names down here, 5D, 7D, 1DC, Blackmagic, RAW, Cinema Camera, C300, Nikon D800, GoPro, Arri, Alexa. This gives you a starting point to basically flatten out all of your camera clips so that everything is even from the start, and then you can begin applying the grade. Now, as we take a look here, you're going to notice that we've got a couple clips of our artist here, Jesse Boykins. And if I zoom in, you'll actually see that these are all sourced from the same 3177 clip. These are known as subclips. They came from a larger master clip, and this is a very typical workflow, right? You shoot something, long piece, cut it up into sections, edit it together. In a traditional color grading workflow, we would have to grade each of these clips individually. But now, in SpeedGrade and Premiere Pro, we understand and have a concept of master clips. So it knows that these all came from the same source. So now, I can simply denote just one of these as coming from a master clip. I can go up to one of my cine looks here, and let's choose something like this Gold Heat, which applies a very high contrast sort of look to this, very stylized look, and you can see it's applied it to all of the instances there. And now, if I want to see this back in the context of my edit, just as we had direct link to SpeedGrade, we now have direct link to Adobe Premiere Pro. Go ahead and click on that, click yes, no rendering, goes back to Premiere, just like that, back in the timeline, play it, here it is. And if I go ahead and select this, hit the F key, it's going to open up the master clip where you can see it has applied the SpeedGrade Lumetri filter. The Lumetri filter is the engine that provides those looks. So if I turn this off, it removes the look from all of the clips, all of those subclips. Subsequently, if I select it again here, turn it back on, it has now reapplied that look to all of the subclips. So really, my friends, this not only changes the way that you think about grading, but it just saves you an enormous amount of time because you can go back and forth and really do anything that you can possibly think of. We have typekit support in Premiere and After Effects. We have cooler support in After Effects. We have the ability to auto-save to the Creative Cloud, your preferences here in Premiere Pro. This is just 15.65% of all of the incredible new features coming to the 2014 release of Creative Cloud for Video. My friends from London, thank you so much. See you next time.
Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
Over 10 months in 2013, we asked 10 international artists to create and share 10 exclusive artworks. They did far more than that. How do they work? Where do they find inspiration? What can they teach you? New exclusive concept. 10 Season 3.
Now, I'm really excited about our next speaker. Why? Because it's pretty much borderline impossible to know what's real in movies and what has been brought to life through the imagination, skills, and software tools of the video effects professionals. So, to share with us some of the secrets behind his work on blockbuster movies like The Bourne Identity and Harry Potter, please welcome our luminary presenter. I'm going to have to adopt an accent for this, otherwise it won't have the same ring. Please welcome to the stage, Laurent-Paul Robert.
Good evening. I will not even attempt to beat Jason's entrance. My name is Laurent-Paul Robert. A very important part of my life for the last 20 years creatively is Rubedo, which is a practice on think tank where we try to cross disciplines, creating sound. And we've created Rubedo with Vesna Petreshin. But today I will just focus on one part which is used in Rubedo, which is my involvement in 3D and 2D visual effects. I'm at the moment working with a company called Lip-Sync Post, but the film industry is as secretive as the Swiss bank industry, so I cannot show anything of the current work I'm doing now. But I've been working for 10 years with Double Negative, and I had the authorization to show a few images on projects. So a great project I was involved in was the Bourne Ultimatum, which is a very interesting project because we had to create very realistic kind of visual effects. It's always more challenging to have really effects that we cannot notice, even though it can be frustrating because people say, oh, what visual effects have you done? One thing which we just saw before is that today, whenever we see a screen on film, or a monitor or a telephone, usually it's a blue screen, and then it's replaced to have more control. And now, as Jason presented before, it's very easy in After Effects to do that. One shot which was very challenging in Bourne was this jump. So this is a still from the final shot. And the original footage is this. So the first thing that we see is that the stuntman did the stunt live. And there is no window. So we had to replace the whole facade. So this is a big job that we've done using Photoshop, replacing the facade, repainting the facade. And the windows are different because they shot the next sequence in a studio a couple of months later. And the set was done with arches over the windows, so we had to change that. So. And we had to change also the inside to look like what we see in the next sequence. Now, one of the very good things with the Creative Cloud is that we can paint that directly in Photoshop because we can import all the 3D models and paint directly using all the features from Photoshop. So, where am I? So the machine is a little bit slow, but so and then yes, we had to flip the shot at the end. Another project which we don't think could involve visual effects was Bridget Jones' The Edge of Reason, and especially the final sequence of the movie. So this is how it looks in the film. The film was supposed to be released in October, and the director decided to change the end in July. So they had to shoot this sequence in the middle of August. So this is the original footage. We had some fake snow on set, but we had to remove all the trees behind and create the whole landscape. So we've created some very basic 3D geometry because the parallax, you will see the shot at the end, the camera is moving a lot, and we couldn't just have planes next to each other to create the right parallax. The other thing is that I'm coming from Switzerland, and I haven't traveled much at the time over the country, so that's why it looks like more Switzerland more than Britain. So, and of course, a lot of particles. The snow was added later on. Another interesting project was The Boat That Rocked, where a lot of visual effects were involved. this is a film for those of you who don't know about the Caroline, who was this boat transmitting the first, which was the first pirate radio and emitting from the sea. That was shot in Scotland, and they were waiting for some bad weather at some points for the last sequence, and it never happened. So we had to create the water, CG water. So all this is a full CG shot. And the principle is the same as we use for, since we have layers in Photoshop, and we create layers for every single element that we need: reflection, refraction, the shadows, diffusion. So we can control each of them. Okay, here is an interesting way of mixing live shot with the 3D model of the boat on water. We also had to add quite a few boats digitally. So Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This sequence is the sequence in this room with the spheres. Yeah. This was a big challenge because we had to create all the spheres and break them. And it had to look realistic. The simulations were quite heavy on the farm. So again, so these are all the layers, and we had to render absolutely everything, even if we had to darken it a lot later on. But it's still important to have as much information as possible. And there is a little mix now. I wanted to show about face replacement and the different techniques that we use to replace stuntmen or actors. So the 2D approach is, to film the actor and to just replace the face over the stuntman. Sometimes we have to use 3D modeling, and so for the Bourne Ultimatum, when Bourne had to look younger, the makeup didn't work, so we had to scan his face, and he shot all the scenes, but we replaced his face on all the shots for this sequence. So we were able to alter all the face to make it look as he looked when he was 15 years younger. So. Sorry for the abrupt ending, but...
Wow, stunning stuff there from Laurent. Now he'll be joining us in the tube to share some insights as to how he's achieved success in the video effects industry, so do stay tuned for that. But first up, we're going to take a look at why Premiere Pro has become the first choice for dynamic multi-format video production, with the first of our deep dive video product demos.
Hi, I'm Neil Stevens. I look after the video business for Adobe here in the UK. I've been on board for 4 years now, and I've seen some really exciting changes in that time. With the introduction of the Mercury Playback Engine, we've provided you with the ability to have a completely open timeline mixing any kind of formats. The price you pay for that is a requirement of good housekeeping, but we've introduced some of the tools to be able to manage that stuff well also. The Mercury Playback Engine goes from strength to strength in this release. We've introduced some great new stuff to actually offload some of the video decoding, the debayering as we call it, onto the GPU of the system. I'm also going to show you how you can manage some of your ideas as well using Story as well as Story for iPhone, and actually be able to use the speech-to-text transcription service inside Premiere Pro. And everyone knows if you move around a lot between workstations, desktop, laptop, it can be a real bind to have to set systems up correctly. It can take quite some time to get your preferences and your workspaces just where you want them. So I'm going to show you how you can sync your settings to the cloud and have all of those settings completely retrievable and go with you wherever you go. So we talked about the fact that Premiere is a completely open system that allows you to introduce footage from all manner of different sources, different cameras, archive footage, it doesn't matter. We have a totally open timeline that will play anything back. So I have a bunch of stuff in my tapeless media folder here. I like to build up a bit of a collection of the different format types that we can handle. You've got some footage shot on my phone there. You've got all kinds of stuff from the Canon 5D, C300. But wading through this stuff is the price we pay for that flexibility, right? I mean, I have media in directories scattered all over the place. So as you'll see now, what we allow you to do is actually have two simultaneous media browser folders open. So I can quickly dive backwards and forwards between two different, or even more than two different locations in the folder structure. Really useful for saving you time. What I can also do is actually add some of these locations as favorites. You'll see I've got favorite locations up here. So quickly, any number of preset shortcuts ready to go where you can jump in and start working with your media, really making the operation of getting your stuff into the timeline a lot quicker. But also, don't forget, we've added the ability for you to dive into old projects and actually drill down and see the contents of those projects. So if I want to retrieve a particular sequence that I've already pre-built from something I was working on another time, I can go straight in there and get access to that stuff as well. You see, it connects to the dynamic link server. And there we have access to those clips and any other sequences that I'd pre-built on a previous occasion. So a true multi-folder, multi-project workflow. So I talked a little bit about GPU debayering inside the software now as well. So what does that mean? Well, the Mercury playback engine was something we introduced a little while ago, CS5 in fact, and that was really the beginning of bringing Premiere completely up to date as a world-leading editor that can handle any formats natively on the timeline. So it's fully 64-bit, fully multi-threaded, will use all the RAM in your system, and if you have it available, it'll give you a great amount of GPU acceleration on the graphics card of your system. So if I look in the project settings of where I'm working now, I actually have the ability to engage GPU. I'm lucky enough to have a CUDA-based system in there, so I've got the K2000 mobile graphics card, but we are working closely with the guys at AMD and Intel as well, and we can also do OpenCL-based acceleration, so most modern machines that were bought in the last 2 to 3 years will give you some form of GPU acceleration. And until now, what that's meant is actually the ability to run your visual effects on the graphics processor. So, for example, if I go to any accelerated effect in here, blurs, picture in pictures, it's going to use the graphics card of the system to accelerate that, which really means if you're not dropping frames during playback with no effects on the timeline, you're going to actually be able to add those effects live in real time also. But we've taken things a step further. We can actually debayer on the graphics card as well now. And what does that mean? Well, a lot of complicated camera formats actually discard a lot of color information in the sensor, so you're not sampling every pixel of red, green, and blue as you go through. And having discarded that information, we have to rebuild it on playback as well, a process known as debayering. So conventionally, a lot of that has been CPU-based, or you've had to go for very expensive add-on cards, such as the Red Rocket card. So what you'll see is a real mixture of different codecs on the timeline here, DSLR, C300, Red, and here's an example of a very, very tightly cropped image. So you're seeing a 1080p playback, but if I go to here and say scale to frame size, there's the 5K raw original. You've got detail to burn there. That is a 10 megapixel video image at 24 frames a second. So our system is actually playing that stuff back by offloading that process to the GPU in real time. Check it out.
Play is like everything. That's our whole catalyst of how we, like, you know, that's what we give to you. Us playing is like, that's our gift to you.
When I think of play, I think of my childhood. And when I think of my childhood, I think of like when there was no boundaries, when there was no one telling me what I couldn't do as far as my imagination goes and my creativity goes. To me, when I say play, it means to play pretend, you know, to make believe, to be a visionary, to be who you want to be.
So let's talk a little now about the Adobe Story service. Story itself is actually free at the basic level. So if I go ahead and sign in, I can see all of my projects that I've got on the go in here. So I've built all of these scripts in here just as if they were working documents for productions that I'm going to be taking part in. If I go into one of these scripts, you can see all of my scene outlines. And there's colored legend feedback to show you which characters are involved in which scene. It's a fully compliant script editor, and also it has the ability to generate reports as well, such as scene breakdowns, sets and locations, running order, perfect for all of your production planning. But I have full access to Story as well inside the Prelude application. Over here, I can go ahead and sign into Prelude, and I get a reduced interface version of exactly the same account. So as I can see, if I go into my Danny Way project here, this is actually a transcription of the footage I'm going to work on. So if I load up the TH interview, I can actually embed that text-based metadata into the clip. This is actually an interview with Tony Hawk the skateboarder. You can see the footage below here.
Yeah, you know, even with a broken foot or whatnot, he's definitely going to see that mission through, which was incredible. And I don't know how much it did for, say, international relations or for skateboarding in China as a whole, but it definitely had its resonance in the skate industry.
So what I have here is a transcription of the interview that Tony gave about the skateboarder Danny Way. What I have here is actually that same interview with that transcription embedded in the metadata. So you see we have a close relationship between the information that we put in Story and the embedding of that script-based metadata into the video footage here. It even makes it searchable. So if I type skate, for instance, you can see every instance of the word skate coming up inside that interview. So it really saves you ages if you're scrubbing backwards and forwards trying to find individual words and phrases. This allows you to just click and go to that location in the footage.
Skateboarding does become something of, if the skateboarding becomes popular in
skateboarding as
pretty slick. The key with Story as well is that we actually have an online iOS version of the application. So here it is. So actually wherever I am on the move, I can drill in and see all of my projects that I have available. Here's my account information. I can look at categories. I can see any notifications of who else has been collaborating with me on any of my jobs. And if I go into my recent files, I'm going to look again at the same Danny Way interview, and there we are. The total same text transcription that I was looking at inside the Prelude information. So this allows you access to all of your production planning notes and information and scripts on the move at any time, allowing you to stay mobile. So now here I am signing into my Creative Cloud account. And as you'll see, for those of you used to the interface of the website, I have a complete dashboard over all of my activity, my files, applications I can download, access to tutorials. If I look over here in the housekeeping section of my account, I've got my plans and profile account information. But what you'll notice I have right here is my application settings. So this is really important because this is where I actually begin to store all the preferences of the desktop applications that I'm working with. So as we talked about, if you move between multiple workstations on a regular basis, keeping all that stuff in sync and keeping your preferences exactly how you want them can be a real pain. If I look inside Premiere Pro, you'll see that all of these different settings are being saved to the cloud. Preferences and settings. Things like how footage is interpreted on the way in when you import it. How are your bins laid out? If I double click a bin, does it open in place or does it give me a new tab? Setting out my workspaces. Keyboard shortcuts. And given that we have keyboard shortcuts available that mirror the layouts of various different other NLEs on the market, you may have customized those and created several optimizations very specific to you. Creating that stuff can take weeks, so the ability to store those settings in the cloud and retrieve those, really crucial and really important. Now, if we look at After Effects, you'll see that it too can also store the same information. If I go to Preferences, Sync Settings, you'll see a ton of stuff that's actually savable inside your Creative Cloud account and can be retrieved at any time. Under the Edit menu inside my Adobe.com Creative Cloud account, I have the ability to sync settings now. I can use settings from a different account that I may have. If I have a personal and corporate account, clear the settings, manage the sync settings, and manage the account on the page that you saw just earlier. And all of our applications now inside CC 2014 have the ability to store these same settings inside your account. So there we have a variety of features and functionality inside CC 2014, some of it new, some of it old, that enables you to work as fast and efficiently as possible. Multiple media browsers and multiple project workflows, cutting-edge performance in GPU, CPU, and now also codec debayering for RED 4 and 5K workflows, Adobe Story on the desktop, on the move, in Prelude, on your iPhone, and the ability to sync settings as well from all of the Creative Cloud desktop applications straight into your account.
Do keep those tweets coming in to #CreateNow to let us know what you think of what you've seen so far. And do enter that competition for those fantastic prizes. Details are coming up right now. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.
I'm joined in the tube now with our fabulously talented visual effects artist, Laurent. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for the invitation.
You're welcome. We really enjoyed your presentation earlier. I'd like to talk a little bit more about how you work with some of the Adobe tools, if that's all right, and what you do. Of course. I've got the image up that you showed earlier of the Bourne Ultimatum. Mm-hmm. Can you talk us through this image again and how you worked with Photoshop for this particular shot?
Yes. So this is the image of the final shot, what was done, on what we saw on film actually. And what we see, the whole facade has been reworked on Photoshop, because if we see the original footage, so we see that first there was no window. We had to add the windows, but also the next sequence, which is inside the room, was shot in studio a couple of months after that shot. And later on they discovered that from inside all the windows had some arcs on the top. So we had to change the whole facade. So we did add the arcs. Then, you know, the windows and
And the shutters
the
as
shutters as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And all this texturing, the facade, everything was done with Photoshop.
Fantastic. And do you work with Photoshop on a regular basis then to do kind of texturing and that sort of thing within the movie?
On VFX, yes, Photoshop is absolutely used every day. First from the concept, because it's always, the concept is always shown first on stills.
Yeah.
To see, even for us, to see, you know, what we could do for the effects. So as a research tool, it's very important.
Yeah.
And we use a lot of matte painting, which is used in the background.
And in actual fact, you did some of that, the matte painting work on Bridget Jones, didn't you, The Edge of Reason? Can you talk us through that one?
So this is the final shot of the movie, and the director decided to change the ending 3 months before the ending, and that was in July.
Yeah.
So they had to shoot in the middle of August in the countryside.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be snow covered, obviously.
But yes, because it happens in winter.
Yeah.
So this is the original footage, and we see that we had some fake snow covering a little bit some of the parts.
Yeah.
But what you see behind all the trees, so we had to remove the trees and to replace it with backgrounds. And here we see on the background, we had some simple 3D geometry on landscape because of the parallax, because the camera is moving a lot on that shot.
Right.
And
so it wasn't just a case of putting in a still background there with some trees and snow, it needed to move correctly.
The camera starts on the ground and then goes up a lot.
Yeah.
And because of the parallax, we couldn't have just planes next to each other, so we had to create some geometry.
Yeah.
But everything was done in Photoshop, and then we projected into that geometry.
Yeah.
So it works with the parallax, and the background, and the clouds.
Fantastic.
Everything was added on this.
So you've got so much depth in that shot that just wasn't there at all before.
Yes.
Amazing.
And also because I was not for long in Britain, so that's why it looked more like Switzerland than Britain. But,
it's very romantic looking, I love it.
That was an interesting shot to do.
So you've been working in the UK a lot, haven't you, for,
for
the last
about
10 years?
10 years, yes.
Yeah. And I believe you were working on some of the Harry Potter movies, is that right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
And so the industry in the UK, when did that start to become such a big player in the
it started really with Harry Potter.
It was with Harry Potter,
yes, because you had a very good post-production companies on the venues here in London.
Yeah.
But none of these venues were working for Hollywood at the time. And when J.K. Rowling made the contract with the Warner, she had a clause that everything had to be done in the UK.
Good for her.
That's very good. But you know, the studio didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And when all the photography was finished for the first one, and the reflex was to go to facilities in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And she said, you know, you have to read the contracts, you know. So that's why all the facilities which were existing here, you know, had to take the work.
Yeah.
A lot of
So they must have been fairly small in those days, were they?
I started with double negative at the time. Double negative existed for 2-3 years at the time, but it was 30 people there.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we had to take the work. A lot of artists came from the States.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of artists here in the UK, in Europe, and it started to grow thanks to Harry Potter. And when the studio saw the quality of what we did here in Europe, then they started to ask for other movies as well.
Yeah. So along with all of the video effects work that you do, you also have other creative projects, don't you, that you work with the Creative Cloud, a lot of the applications within there and the cloud interface as well. Tell us a little bit about how the cloud helps you with what you do.
So, yes, VFX is only one part of what I do, but I'm using it for Rubedo, which is the practice that I founded with Vesna Petreshin. And we try to cross disciplines. So we are using every kind of medium, and from music, we compose a lot of music. We are both musicians. So Audition is used all the time.
Yeah, fantastic.
But we do a lot of movies, live performances.
Yeah.
During performances, we use a lot of visuals because we always try to create immersive space. So After Effects, Premiere, and we use the cloud because everything is connected together, you know, so it's so easy to go from one app to another one.
You're really doing the full workflow, aren't you, with the type of projects you work with?
You know, when we work, we have always 4 applications open all the time, all from the cloud.
And how do you draw all of these things together in the kind of planning stages? What do you work
actually,
with to do
that was very interesting because I discovered Story from the cloud. First to script one film, and then it's so easy because you have all the parts where you can plan a production. And we started to use it as well to produce live performances or installations. And it's one of the main
It's a really good collaboration tool,
Absolutely.
isn't it?
Yes.
Good for organising kind of all of the different elements together.
Yes.
Fantastic. Oh, it's a personal favourite of mine. I started working on it in the early days when I was directing and producing. So,
well done.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome. So yeah, great to hear about that. Thank you. Can I just find out a little bit more now about how you actually made your way into the industry? Because there weren't traditional training courses around for video effects, were there?
No, in a way I'm a little bit lucky because I'm a bit, you know, I'm from a generation where it was the early days of computing and especially graphics, any kind of graphics. So we all had to learn by ourselves. So there was absolutely no school, and especially in art, it was absolutely not considered as anything. You know, digital was
just not there.
Not there. Yeah, I started to use personal computers, Commodore 64, when I was 12 or 13. And from the start, I saw that as a very creative tool because I could make some sound, I could make some visuals. It was very simple, but it was fun, actually. I just never stopped.
Yeah, brilliant. And you worked quite a lot in computer games, did you? In your early days as well, I believe?
Yes, first, I used, you know, all the basics to do titles for videos. And sorry, I happened to go to Ljubljana, to Slovenia, to do a storyboard for a small company. But this company was using Silicon Graphics and doing some 3D animations on effects, mostly for architecture visualization, but advertising. And during this 3 months where I was supposed to do this storyboard, I saw the machines and I started to work on that. And so I stayed 8 years.
So you kind of, that's your starting point for moving into 3D.
And we were all working night and day trying to find new ways of creating images.
I mean, I think this is the great thing about the Creative Cloud now, that if you have this full membership to the Creative Cloud, you have access to so many different tools that you might not have picked up and started using before.
Absolutely.
And the fact you can pick them up and start working with them is, you know, it's a really valuable thing, right?
Absolutely, because, you know, that's how I really discovered Audition and the possibilities of Audition, for example. Because I used to use a lot of other softwares especially for the mastering. And then, you know, because it was there, and for a film it was quicker to use Audition with Premiere. I started to see some of, some
real possibilities,
that some other softwares cannot really use. You know, so I'm using Audition also just for soundtracks sometimes. And,
fantastic. So what would be great now for our younger members of the audience and for those kind of starting out in their careers, if you have any advice to people wanting to move into the video effects industry?
Well, the first is to work and trying to learn and to do things all the time, you know, as much as possible. And to keep up with the technology because it's changing all the time. So it's very important when there is a new version, like, you know, last month now, we have the new version of the cloud. It's very important to see all the new things because when we are used to one software, you know, it's very easy we know how to use it. And if we don't know what exists, we won't use it. So it's very important to keep up always, you know, with the technology.
But to remain on the cutting edge of things, right?
Absolutely, because this is what will give the edge. But what is very important also is behind knowing how to use a software is to know what it means. You know, so it's important to learn, in my opinion, the basics of drawings, for example, for art history as well. It's very important, and to have all this literature and you know, for like any creative work.
And I would imagine also you need to understand the physics behind the 3D stuff that you're doing, not just kind of be able to make the software do
yes,
it.
Yes, in 3D, absolutely, because, you know, when I started, we had to script to make a sphere, you know, it had to be scripted. So, yeah, we need to know a little bit of the basics, you know, and especially in terms of space and volume.
Yes. Yeah. And what do you think's been the secret to your success in the industry?
Coffee, probably.
Coffee.
Most important.
For most people in the creative industry, I would say.
Well, one way is being curious, you know, knowing that I never know anything, you know, so I will learn, you know, every day new things, and trying to find different ways of doing things. Because very often, you know, a director will say, okay, you know, we have this reference, you know, in this movie, you know, I'd like something a little bit like that. Yeah. But if you do what has been done already, you know, there is nothing really special. So the idea is really to try to get something a bit new and to give our
It's very important to use your imagination and have your own inputs. Yeah. Fantastic. Really, really useful information and insights there from you, Laurent. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you again for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much.
It's time to take a second deep dive demo now into the Adobe Video Pro Tools.
Hi, I'm Neil Stevens from Adobe. I look after the video products in the UK. I'm really excited about the new changes and updates that we've introduced in CC 2014. We have a raft of new stuff in all of our applications across the suite for our CC 2014 video releases through Prelude, Story, After Effects, Audition, Premiere, and I'm going to show you just a smattering of the huge amount of stuff that we've got available now. So let's take a look inside After Effects. So we've seen earlier how we can expose various different text fields inside our lower third composition to the Premiere editor. So conventionally, these lower thirds will be built as an After Effects project, and using the dynamic link function, we're able to bring that stuff directly into Premiere natively. Here I can see the same lower third inside Premiere as a live layer inside my sequence. There it is, the Play Lower Third Template Basic. Back in After Effects, we can drill down into the nuts and bolts of how this is built. Now this is a very sophisticated comp. I've got 9 layers in here. I've got various different effects that appear as the thing pans onto the screen. As you can see, I've spent some time building it up. There's a blend as the pink pane appears on the screen and then becomes more flesh-colored, and then the text begins to pan straight across. Now I've built this as a unified look, and I want this lower third to be used on all of the characters in the Premiere project. But having moved on to the next job, I'm now unavailable to make those changes for the Premiere operator. But the good news is that these 3 layers here can be left totally modifiable by the Premiere editor by simply leaving those unlocked. And in my composition settings up here, I simply go to Advanced and I make sure that this is marked as a template. And you see any unlocked text layers are now editable inside Premiere Pro. So this means the Premiere editor can get in there and change any of the text-based information in these 3 fields, location, last name, and first name, but they don't have access to the fonts, size, kerning, or any of the other stylistic stuff that I've created inside After Effects. Just to demonstrate that, if I only want last and first name to be editable, I can lock out the location. So if I go back to Premiere, highlight that selection there and do a match frame. When I select this and look in the effects controls, now only the last name and first name fields are editable. Back in Premiere, if I remove that lock, you can see, voila, updated inside Premiere. So even greater integration now using Dynamic Link with the new live text template integration between Premiere and After Effects. So it's a little known fact that one of the last industries to revolutionize itself with digital content delivery is that of cinema and television. Digital cameras have been around for probably 15 years now, and we all take for granted our Instagram and TwitPics, you name it. We're used to digital stills content. But in the cinema, up until very recently, they were still shooting on 35mm celluloid, and indeed in some areas internationally are actually still delivering reels of film. But for those markets that have gone to digital projection, they use something called a DCP, or a digital cinema package. Well, it's exciting to know now that if you have to deliver any of your work and you want it to actually be submitted for screening professionally in a theatre, we can deliver those DCP files now directly out of the Adobe Media Encoder. And here you can see inside AME that we've logically subcategorized all of the different formats that you can deliver video to. So you'll recognize some of these formats before, but in this latest version, we've added cinematic delivery to Raptor DCP 2K. So let's go ahead and submit one of my jobs from Premiere. So if I select this live text sequence here from within the project, I simply go File, Export, Media, and I'm going to send that out to AME by hitting the Q button. There we are, and that will load up into our queue. There we have it. It's come up as NTSC-DV by default, but I can easily add a DCP cinematic delivery to the queue. There we are. That's now going to be delivered as 2K digital cinema flat. And you can see in here I can decide which video dimensions I want to deliver the DCP flat package in. For further information on the additional DCP tools, visit the QVIS website here. You can actually upgrade the tool for full 4K delivery as well for your projects. Equally, the world of broadcast has been slow to adapt digital file format delivery, and there are still many transmission facilities now accepting program delivery on videotape. Well, the DPP, or the Digital Production Partnership, has mandated that from later this year, all UK television stations, the BBC, ITV and Channel 4, must deliver in the AS11 compliant format now. So file-based delivery required to send programs to air. You'll be pleased to hear that inside Adobe Media Encoder, we have that same shim. So at the same time as delivering my flat 2K DCP file for cinematic delivery, I can select DPP AS11 as a preset shim and add that as an additional job to my output. And when I go ahead and start the render queue, because Adobe Media Encoder is a completely multi-threaded solution, it'll actually build both of those outputs for me simultaneously. So there you have it. The ability to deliver your video output in any known format, whether it's web, DVD, platform device, broadcast, cinema, you name it. Adobe Media Encoder will allow you to get your video production to your audience by whatever means you need. So we're going to look a little more at Prelude, which is our log, capture, and metadata entry application. It allows me to add content markers to my clips, so typically subclips and comments, but equally richer types of metadata as well, which you can see below. You can even add your own custom metadata tags and schemas, and all of this information is maintained and preserved inside the header of the video file itself. But logging can be quite a keyboard-intensive task, and there's also the requirement that any typing I put in, any metadata must be spelt correctly each time for it to be correctly searchable by the next user. So in this version of Prelude, we've introduced the tagging panel, which allows me to go in and create custom-based tag buttons. So the way I achieve that is I can choose a square tag, I can say jump, create another, call that good, change the color, and let's perhaps have a third as well. But you can see I can create a whole array of buttons that correspond to useful tags that get repeated within the footage that I'm working on. We'll have another here called shaky to indicate to the operator that this is slightly shaky footage that should be avoided. Okay, that's now concluded. So if I go ahead to my logging mode, I can go through and I can enter that text-based metadata in a quickly triggerable, repeatable fashion. So let's go through. So we'll call that good. That was a bit shaky. Bit shaky again. Each time it's adding that information into the comments track. There's a jump coming up. Go ahead, there we are, jump. And that's easily searchable. Another jump. We'll just say that's good footage. So the tag panel allows me to create a complete array of text-based metadata buttons that I can standardize upon and distribute amongst my co-workers on the project. As you can see here, they can be exported and imported as .json files. But I may not be at the desktop. I may not actually even be anywhere near where my footage is. So we've created the live logging application for iOS. So this time I can launch Live Logger, and I have a basic template created in there called Ski, which mirrors the tag-based metadata I'd entered inside the tagging scheme inside Prelude, the desktop application. So let's watch the skiing footage again through, and this time I'm going to add the metadata inside the iOS device. So there we go, that's a bit shaky. Let's jump, that's good. Now the jump coming up here. Good, more good footage. More shaky, another jump. Another jump. And again, some good usable footage. So this time I've created a full log disconnected from the video media. I'm going to take this metadata and I'm going to submit it to the Creative Cloud and pick it up back inside Prelude. So literally I go to upload to Creative Cloud, and that's going to be called Ski. Back inside Prelude, I can go to what we call the unassociated metadata window. Here then I simply pick up my Creative Cloud-based log down here inside Live Logger and pick up the most recent ski-based XMP information. And there we have shaky, jump. Here is all of the text-based metadata that I entered, based purely on start time, or time of day time in this case. All I then do is apply to the open clip at the current player position. Having moved that to the start, so I've aligned my notional start times, apply to open clip, and there we have it. All of that text-based metadata. So this is going to allow you to log any live footage regardless of where you are in the world, save the text-based XMP log, submit it to Prelude, and realign it with your footage. This is going to revolutionize your mobile working in terms of being able to get your logs into Creative Cloud from wherever you are. So how many of you have ever lost unsaved changes? We have an autosave function in Premiere, right? But let's say you lose your desktop hardware, or you have some kind of even more critical system failure or hard drive failure. Then what? You'll be pleased to know that we have now actually added the ability to autosave to the cloud. This again is really important. All of your backup projects being saved directly to your Creative Cloud storage. So at any time, if I go down to my Creative Cloud dashboard here, open up Creative Cloud files, within Premiere Pro, I have a full copy of my local Adobe Premiere Pro autosave folder. Hugely useful for retrieving any lost changes. In this release, we've also added the ability to sync Typekit fonts to the desktop. This stuff becomes much more readily available in your desktop applications. So if I click into Typekit, any one of the available fonts that we ship with Typekit, I can now add to my desktop. So for example, I have the Adele font here. I simply click on Use Fonts, sync the selected fonts. They should get added to my Creative Cloud desktop. 4 fonts were added. Back in After Effects, if I come back to this lower third that we were playing with earlier on, make a selection there. I can now simply select the Adele font. There we are. That's now fully synced inside the application without even relaunching. So full access to all Typekit fonts within the CC 2014 desktop apps. So for those of you who use Adobe Cooler, we've now integrated that into After Effects as well. So I've created this lower third in After Effects for use underneath the footage of our violinist here in Premiere Pro. What I actually want to do is create a color scheme based on the natural flesh tones that we see inside this still frame here. So if I save out that frame as a JPEG, call it flesh tones, going to save that into the play folder in my Creative Cloud folder. Back in Cooler, I can actually identify based on that photo, Creative Cloud files, play, flesh tones, open. And you see I can now begin to make a color scheme based on what's happening in that image. There we are. That's called flesh tones. I save that out. So back in After Effects, if I go to the Cooler tab, I can explore the themes I've created. Under My Themes, there we are, I have flesh tones. Now all of those hues are selectable for any of my work inside this comp. So for example, if I choose the base pane and I wish to change the color there to more naturally match the flesh tone, I can simply just use the color picker to go and pick one of those up. And there we have it, matching the natural flesh tone scheme that originally came from the shot in Premiere, with a dynamic link update. Huge advances in integration between our tools, giving you a very, very tight-knit, tightly integrated solution. So in addition to the big headline features that we've introduced for the CC 2014 video apps, we've looked at how you can work faster with the live text template integration between After Effects and Premiere Pro. We've looked at how you can deliver your video production to any platform, including now AS11 for broadcast, and DCP for cinema. We've looked at how you can log your footage with Prelude using the new tag panel functions, and also still log regardless of your physical location using the Prelude Live Logger iOS application. And also stay connected to the Creative Cloud. Make sure your projects are always safe using the Autosave to Creative Cloud function. And stay on top of your creative look at all times using the Cooler integration, now available in After Effects, making sure you have access to all of your custom color swatches at all times. But don't take my word for it. Upgrade to the CC 2014 apps as soon as you can and take them for a ride yourself.
Our evangelist Jason has joined us now in the tube. Thank you very much for being here, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Iona.
So the 2014 release of the Creative Cloud has a lot of new features, particularly in the video products, to enable you to work faster, improve workflows, improve performance as well, right? Can you tell us about a few of those?
Absolutely. So really one of the main themes that we were focusing on for this 2014 release was productivity enhancements, and really removing a lot of the pain that editors feel on a day-to-day basis. So one of the first areas that we focused on was in the color grading workflow, where traditionally this has involved a lot of rendering, right? So you'd be in Premiere, you'd be doing your edits, and then you would perhaps send it off to your colorist, or maybe you're doing the color, but in any case, there was a render step involved there. So now we've introduced a technology called Direct Link, and you can direct link from the Premiere Pro timeline right into Adobe SpeedGrade. There's no rendering involved. In fact, the Premiere Pro timeline is in SpeedGrade when it sends it over, and then you're able to grade in real time. And again, we're resolution independent, so whether you're working in 1080p HD or 4K, 5K, 6K, real time grading. We've got incredible capabilities for even shot matching. So again, a lot of things that we hear as people begin to broaden their disciplines. You've got designers doing video and video people doing design. What if you had a still? What if someone had already taken an image and they wanted you to sort of match the color of this particular image to your video? Well, we have this incredible shot matching feature. It's literally a single click to apply this look. And then of course you can tweak it with all of the advanced capabilities you'd expect. But again, no rendering involved. And then once you do the grade, you've even got capabilities to apply things like master clip effects. So
this is fantastic. Personal favorite feature, actually.
Absolutely. So as we'll experience even here today, right? We shoot long clips and then we cut them up into sub clips. And in the traditional grade workflow, you would have had to have color graded each one of those sub clips individually. But now you can denote them as as coming from a master, as a master clip, apply the same effect across all of them in one step, and now without rendering, send that back to Premiere Pro or continue working in SpeedGrade. It's an amazing time saver. It fundamentally changes the way you think about grading, and it just saves an incredible amount of time.
And we've got some fantastic features from After Effects now sitting within Premiere Pro, right?
Absolutely, and in fact, another common theme is sort of taking technologies from one app and bringing them into another. So the first of those is masking and tracking, which is something which is used on still imagery, but of course it's used all the time in video. So whether you're masking someone for, again, color grading purposes, or perhaps in an interview setting, you're masking and concealing someone's identity. This is common, right? Blur out a face, or perhaps
I was never here.
That's right. Or blurring out a logo or something like that that you don't have license to use. Very common. And of course, you could do this in Premiere Pro before, but it was many steps. It was far from workflow efficient. So what we did was we actually brought in the After Effects masking and tracking engine, which we introduced the rigid mask tracker in the October release of CC for video back in October of 2013. This now lives inside of Premiere Pro. You can apply an elliptical or 4-point polygon mask on any effect in Premiere, and then track the motion automatically. So it'll track the motion. You don't have to.
And it moves in a 3D way through the shot. It'll resize.
Yes, it'll skew. It'll adjust position and scale. This was a process that was keyframe to keyframe before, and now it's automatic. It's using the same engine from After Effects. But I think one of the greatest things that we've done is this new thing called live text templates. So again, aside from just performance and productivity enhancements, we also wanted to make it easier for editors to continue to work alongside After Effects, perhaps if they're not very comfortable working with motion graphics. And a very common use is things like lower thirds, broadcast lower thirds.
Of course, anytime somebody new comes on the screen, they need to be captioned right.
They need to be captioned right and change text. And we were hearing from editors all over the world, they're often given these graphics packages, and to edit something as simple as a name, they'd have to go into After Effects and make those edits. And as you well know, After Effects comps can be many layers, just like a Photoshop file. They can
be confusing.
It can be very confusing. You can have nested compositions. The text layer may live 10 levels down in something else. And they just didn't feel comfortable making these edits. Well,
even with the dynamic link, which is fantastic.
Which, again, eliminates rendering, but it doesn't eliminate the fear of, I don't know where these things live. So now we have the capability to dynamically link these After Effects live text templates into Premiere. And right within the Premiere Pro interface, the VFX creator, the person who created those, can denote these text layers as editable. So without ever leaving the Premiere environment, I can change the name. Whatever fields they've allowed me to change, I can change these without ever leaving. As an editor, I'm feeling comfortable. I can make these changes.
Without accidentally messing up any of the other graphics.
Without accidentally. Yes, and the best thing is, all of the animated elements from this After Effects project are retained. They're all still there. So you're literally swapping out text live and doing this so efficiently. But the cool thing is, you know, sometimes we want to go the other way around. And actually that's the next thing, which I'm going to show you here, borrowing a bit of technology from Premiere and placing it into After Effects. So shall we take a look?
Absolutely, let's take a look.
So you'll know that, you know, last year we did a lot of work, again, bringing some technologies from Photoshop into After Effects.
For rotoscoping.
For rotoscoping. And we brought in the Refine Edge tool, which was the Refine Edge brush introduced in Photoshop. So that lived in After Effects, but we hadn't really touched keying in a very long time. And we have a very powerful effect, Key Light, in After Effects. It's an industry standard. It's won Oscars for visual effects work. But again, very complex to do it right. And we're finding today that more and more people are shooting things on green screen, on blue screen, wanting to key and composite themselves. And if you're shooting 4K, 5K, 6K, even poorly lit, it's actually pretty easy to do. But what if you're shooting with an iPhone or an Android device or a DSLR or a very compressed signal, pulling a good key...
The edges are not as well defined as
Right, and as someone who deals with the edges of frizzy hair all the time, we know that hair and things like that, that's what takes
what the challenge is.
Well, that's the challenge, and that's what makes something that could ultimately look professional look semi-professional when you have those bad edges and, you know, that sort of thing. So we introduced two new effects in After Effects, which are a combination with Key Light called the Key Cleaner and the Spill Suppressor.
Great.
So if you take a look here, you can actually see that we have a shot girl on a green screen.
And what sort of camera has been used?
Yeah, so this is a compressed piece of footage here. Probably, I think this was actually a DSLR. And in this case, what we want to do is we're going to apply this effect. So if I come over to Effects and Presets and just start typing Key Light, you'll see that there is a new combination preset here called Key Light, Key Cleaner, and Advanced Spill Suppressor.
It's a catchy title.
Very catchy, very easy to remember. Yes. Complex, but very easy to use. All right. So we can simply drop this on top of our content. And again, the first step here is to actually take the screen color. So I'll grab the eyedropper and go ahead and just choose sort of my most neutral green here. And again, you can see that the lighting is a little uneven. And right away, if you take a look at the hair, it looks smooth, it looks good. That's because we actually have the Key Cleaner implemented by default.
Automatically enabled, right?
Now, these are using defaults. Now, if I turn this off, right away you can see, if you look here along the edges and the hair, you can see a lot of noise. You can see that it begins to look...
It's more pixelated.
Pixelated, crunchy. Again, this is what separates the professional end product from the semi-professional ones. So for that, we introduced the Key Cleaner. But still, there's a problem, which is this green spill. And this is what people face all the time. Now, we wanted to make it easy. There's lots of ways that you can fix this in Key Light, but if you're not familiar with it, you could spend a lot of time and actually make it look worse.
Absolutely.
So we introduced the Advanced Spill Suppressor, and with a single click now, turn that on, you'll see you just have this...
It's totally gone.
It's totally gone. Brilliant. Now, I mentioned taking technology from Premiere and placing it into After Effects. So this Advanced Spill Suppressor uses our Ultra Key technology. Ultra is part of Premiere Pro CC. So if you actually twirl down here under Method, you'll see right now we're using the standard method with sort of standard defaults. If I go ahead and click on Ultra, this is now giving me all the control of the Ultra Keyer from Premiere Pro. And you'll see you even have the ability to take a separate key color. The reason for that is, again, by default, it's going to use the same screen color that you used with key light, but you'll notice down below here, what's controlling that is basically an expression. So if we disable this expression, this will allow us, using the ultra settings, to take a new green sample and further refine any of that green spill.
So that's for if you've got some kind of darker shades of green where the lighting's not equal across the backdrop, right?
Absolutely, and that's the key, which is that, you know, if you're, yes, it's the ultra key. If you're shooting, you know, in a very professional environment, yes, your lighting will be good. You'll be shooting uncompressed. You'll be shooting with all the benefits of all that. Not everyone does that, and we really want to.
You're going to get shadows potentially cast from the person in the foreground.
Absolutely.
Or unequal lighting.
Right, and the green itself, or blue, or whatever, can vary. So this gives you total control, but I'll tell you, by default, and I've been using this for some time now, you'll see that the results are really quite shocking. And again, even if you're shooting with, you know, anything that's shooting H.264, you know, or something that's super sharp and bright, GoPro footage, DSLR footage, not really ideal for keying. But now, in just a few moments, you can see, look, she's smiling at the end there. She knows it's so good.
She loves it.
She's so happy about that. So, yeah, just performance and productivity enhancements across the board, and bringing in a lot of other Creative Cloud elements too. You now have the cooler panel in After Effects. You now have the ability to bring in your typekit fonts into After Effects and Premiere Pro. I talked to a lot of video editors, and initially the thought was, well, typekit fonts. I said, yes, but you're doing motion graphics. Surely you want new font choices, and we have, you know, hundreds of them. Oh, right, and they're part of the Creative Cloud membership. All right, so just all of that flexibility.
All value-added stuff.
All value-added stuff, and it feels familiar because it works the same across these applications, and this is a really wonderful release for video.
It certainly is. Thank you so much indeed for sharing that with us.
Thanks, Iona.
So we've reached the end of the Creative Cloud 2014 video show, but do check out the other 3 shows. And you can, of course, check out what you missed at adobe.com/go/create-now-UK.
Big thanks to all of you guys for watching, and also a massive thanks to our presenters. Don't forget to take part in the 2014 Creative Cloud competition. Here are the details. Picture yourself being based here at the Village Underground in the heart of Shoreditch, with tons of creative tools and assets at your fingertips. Sound good? Then this is the competition for you.
We're giving you the chance to win 3 months of workspace in this very tube. Plus 12 months membership to the Creative Cloud with all the latest creative apps and services. And a 12-month membership to the Photolia image library to download and use up to 25 royalty-free image assets a month.
Wow, and as well as that, you'll also be getting your hands on a Wacom Intuos Pro medium tablet for precision creative working. I think that's pretty much got it covered.
It certainly does.
All you need to do to be in with a chance of winning all of that is to tweet us a photo of you in the place where you currently work, wherever that may be.
Tweet your photo using the hashtag #CCWorkspace, and if you are the lucky winner, you can start your placement anytime between the 1st of September 2014 and the 31st of May 2015.
It's an incredible, unique collection of prizes and everything you need to kickstart your creative career.
So get tweeting those CC Workspace selfies right now.